So, welcome back. This is part two of the electric guitar for worship, blah, 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 blah. If you didn't see the first video, we talked about some basic effects that shape your tone and some basic tones for worship. So, you might want to go back and check that out. So, now let's get to the fun part. Well, it's all fun. So, when I was starting out playing electric guitar, I was coming from a long time of playing acoustic guitar. I realized I couldn't just play electric like I played acoustic. I mean, it can work, but most of the time it's not a good idea. There's probably at least an acoustic guitar playing as well. Or maybe a piano, bass and drums if you're lucky. So if you just play like it was an acoustic guitar, it can get muddy. Boring, but there's just too much noise and it's like too much of the same thing on top of each other. So I eventually figured out four different ways of playing that I think cover a lot of the bases for what you need in a lot of music, but especially worship music. All right, so here they are, super quick, and then we'll go over them more in detail later. Okay, so let's dive into each one of those in a little more detail. Chords! I'm assuming and hoping that you probably know a handful of chords. If you're coming from an acoustic guitar background like I was, then this approach is probably going to be the easiest one to do. It's just playing chords, but let's break it down a little further. So you got your sustained chords, which is simply letting each chord ring out until the next chord comes along. It can work well in loud or soft songs. It often works nicely with a big, epic, and powerful tone. Okay, then you got your arpeggiated chords. Is arpeggiated even a word? So this is where you play various notes of the chord independently. And it works with a variety of tone styles, especially clean tones. And your power chords. For when you really want to crank it to 11, it's playing chords on every beat or even more. And sometimes it's good to throw in some muted thwacks by just resting your fingers on the strings. Yeah. Okay, next on the style list, you've got riffs, which is kind of a misnomer, but it's really just any time there's sort of a specific melody or lead electric guitar line that kind of helps make the song unique. And since most of these songs are only 4 chords, they kind of need all the help they can get. So a riff might be something you came up with yourself or something based on a recording that you heard. Do what you're doing with excellence, but don't draw attention away from the message of the song. I know, easier said than done. Next is probably my favorite, ostinato. I love it so much, I even suggested naming a potential future son Austin Otto. My wife didn't think that was a great idea. So ostinato just means like a repeating pattern. In a lot of songs you can get away with just playing a pattern of a few notes. On its own, it might not sound like much. But when a band is playing, it adds a nice texture. Sometimes you may want to change one note in the pattern just to mix it up. Ostinato can work with a lot of different types of songs and tones, but if you can get that dotted 8th note delay working, it's especially nice for that delayed and edgy sound. Just 2 notes. And lastly, there's noodling, which I could have called scales, but I don't really know scales, so... But if you do know scales, a major pentatonic scale in the key of the song will usually sound nice. Essentially noodling, what I mean by that is just adding a little simple texture to the overall sound by playing individual notes or small little runs. One note per chord is usually enough. But if you're gonna play like a little run or flourish, do it between phrases. Don't let your noodling compete with the lyrics, because the lyrics are ultimately the most important part. Once you've got a handle on those styles, you need to know how to use the different styles in a song to make the song dynamic. Teaching this part is difficult because I feel like this is where it just comes down to musicality. You gotta sort of feel it. Even if you don't know exactly what you're gonna play, you have to know what's coming next in the song. You have to know where you are in the song. Are you on the verse or on a bridge or on a chorus or an interlude or the intro or the outro? And you gotta be listening to what's happening with the rest of the band. You wanna be part of the sound, not a distraction. And there's no hard and fast rules about this, but there's some, whatever, let's just call them rules. Rule number 1, it's okay not to play. Don't feel like you have to be playing all the time. It's cool to just lay out sometimes. Rule number 2, the riff style of playing usually works best during the intros or during outros or brief musical interludes. Don't do it while people are singing because it's distracting. There are exceptions, but even the exceptions, it's usually like between words or something. Rule number 3, if the leader says something like, I want the chorus to feel more open, then what he or she probably means is they want that sort of sustained chord sound. Rule number 4, a number of songs have these sort of long, thoughtful breaks. Noodling around is sometimes a nice addition to those. Okay, rule number 5, ostinato is a good way to play on verses because it kind of fills out the sound and doesn't distract from the words, but it leaves enough dynamic space to crank it up another notch to like power chords if you need to do that later. Okay, I think that's probably plenty for one video. I hope you found this useful. I'll leave you with this. I'll play through an entire song from start to finish using all of those techniques and kind of show you how I think about putting them together. Please excuse the quality of my backing track because I make these videos late at night after my kids have gone to bed and I'm tired and I do it fast and my voice is not the best. Anyway, here we go. Through every battle, through every heartbreak, through every circumstance, I believe that you are my fortress. Oh, you are my portion. You are my hiding place. Oh, I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe through every blessing, through every promise, through every breath I take. I believe that you are provider, you are protector, you are the one I love. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are. Oh, you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that are new. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true because they can't stay long. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and see you next time.